I practiced NoFap and then semen retention for 3 years. During this time, I experienced the secret benefits and downsides of both practices, which allowed me to understand how NoFap and semen retention are similar, but also very different. So if you're trying to decide which one you should pick, by the end of this video, you'll have your answer. So let's start with NoFap. What even is NoFap? You should think of NoFap as basically a reboot, designed to undo years of dopamine damage and addiction that you have likely done to yourself by watching porn. Because if you haven't realized it by now, porn is definitely not good for you. In fact, it's basically a drug. Every time you watch porn and finish from it, you're basically frying your dopamine receptors. And doing this here and there isn't so bad, but if you do this a lot, when you're addicted to porn, you will likely do, it starts to make everything else pale in comparison. Things like going on a walk, chilling at the beach, playing a sport, meditating. All of these things become boring because you're so used to the high that you get from watching porn. That's why you should think of NoFap as a reboot. It's gonna reset all the damage you've done to yourself over the years. And it's gonna help rebuild your dopamine system, your motivation, and your discipline to do things. This is great for men who feel numb, compulsive, stuck, and also men who lack discipline, because NoFap is definitely not easy, and it's gonna help reset all of these things. But what you should know is that NoFap isn't just about not doing something, it's also about redirecting your energy. And by redirecting your energy, you get a lot of benefits. Things like little to no anxiety, being more motivated, increased sex drive, increased ability to manifest things you want, attention from the opposite sex. Even though it sounds crazy, all these things are legitimately real, and I experienced all of them. If you want to hear more about those experiences, check out this video here. But on the flip side, if you don't know what you're doing with NoFap and you're not redirecting your energy in a healthy way, you can get into the dark side of NoFap, because NoFap does have a dark side. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's not a magic pill. You have to do things on NoFap to make it work. If you just think that you can cut out porn on NoFap and sit in your room and do the exact same stuff without watching porn, you're gonna be in for a rude awakening, because all that extra energy you have is going to eat you alive. You're gonna feel angry, you're gonna feel frustrated, you're gonna feel depressed. And all the issues that you had been suppressing by watching porn is gonna come to the surface and push you back down and really try attacking you and getting you to watch porn again, which 99% of the time you will do. Now, I know the dark side of NoFap can seem scary, but in all honesty, NoFap was one of the best things I've ever done in my life. And if you can successfully navigate NoFap, I promise you, it will be extremely beneficial to you and your life. I mean, since I successfully practiced, my whole life changed. I personally have no desire to watch porn anymore. I've learned how to become sexually disciplined, and it definitely helps me successfully practice the harder version of NoFap, which is semen retention. Because if you thought NoFap seemed hard, semen retention is basically NoFap on steroids. I like to call it NoFap hard mode. So let's get into it. What even is semen retention? Well, semen retention is basically NoFap, but from a different perspective. Because as we established, most men who are looking into NoFap are addicted to porn and are looking to gain control over their sexual energy, while most men who are looking into semen retention already have control over their sexual energy. You get what I mean? Semen retention is about the conscious preservation of sexual energy, even during sex. Because in semen retention, you don't even think about porn. You're really not even avoiding porn at this point. You're thinking about using your energy to manifest things in your reality. You're thinking about creating things in the outside world and really raising your consciousness. That's why I like to call semen retention NoFap hard mode, because it's not even about not fapping. On semen retention, you're so far past that. And if you're thinking about practicing semen retention, the benefits are pretty similar to NoFap, but they're just stronger. The benefits I talked about on NoFap, you're gonna experience, but you're also gonna be building long-term stamina, focus, confidence. You're gonna start to have an energetic magnetism about you. I know it sounds crazy, but it's literally true. Like, I practiced this for 3 years, guys, and I promise you, the benefits are real. Just look up how many celebrities, famous people, men of value have actively practiced semen retention. I know Mike Tyson practices for his boxing career, and he swore by it too. Of course, that's just one person, but there are tons and tons of people you can look up who actually did this and who swore by it. On top of the benefits I just spoke about, there's also some subtle benefits like clarity, emotional control, and intuition. And to be honest, the intuition part is heavily boosted. I mean, I don't even know if I'd have this YouTube channel if I did not practice semen retention. Everything I learned about myself while practicing NoFap and practicing semen retention is really what I'm doing today. Because on semen retention, I was able to find what I believe is my life's purpose, which is helping people. These practices are powerful and they're really no joke. Obviously though, everything has its downsides. And just like NoFap, semen retention has its downsides as well. Like for instance, if you have a partner, on semen retention, you can't can't finish with them. Another downside of semen retention is obviously the discipline tests. And when I say discipline tests, I really just mean the long periods of time you go without finishing. It almost starts to become a test, and in my opinion, it kind of leads to this unhealthy identification with sexual energy. Because when I practiced this, after a year or two, I almost had a negative slant towards finishing and towards sex in general. Obviously on semen retention, you're not supposed to do that. And when I eventually came off of semen retention, I literally had to rewire my brain to understand that sex is good and it's good to have sex. It sounds crazy, but go basically 3 years without finishing and I'm sure you'll understand what I mean. Which is why semen retention has its positives and it definitely has its negatives. By the way, if you're tired of just watching videos without getting any results and you truly do want to fix your problems, book a private session with me or check out my free ebook. And if you just got a quick question, drop it in the comments. So now that you have a better understanding of NoFap and semen retention, it's time to talk about what really matters. Which one should you pick? Well, like I talked about, NoFap is basically phase 1 for recovery, and semen retention is basically phase 2 for mastery. So really just think about it like this. NoFap is gonna heal your addiction, but if you're past that, semen retention is gonna unlock your potential. And in other words, NoFap is going to remove the poison, while semen retention refines your power. Both of these are challenging, but semen retention is more challenging, and it's going to demand a higher level of self-control, which is why the truth is, one isn't better than the other, and they're both there to be used as tools in different stages of your evolution. So if you're currently addicted to porn, you're compulsive, or you just feel drained throughout the day, bro, start with NoFap. If you're past that stage though, and you want something to help you succeed quicker or just sharpen your masculinity, your best bet is gonna be semen retention. And obviously there's no one holding a gun to your head, bro. You don't need to pick one of these forever. So if you wanna try out NoFap and then try out semen retention, do that. Remember that these are just tools you can use for different goals in your life that you might have. Me personally, I started with NoFap for my first year, then transitioned into semen retention for around the next 2 years. And now I primarily just do NoFap because I'm in a relationship. But if you're not addicted to porn and you're not in a relationship, I definitely recommend practicing semen retention if you can. So the real question isn't which is better, it's what do you need right now? And now that you've watched this video, you now have the knowledge to answer that. So which one are you gonna choose? And if you want help starting your NoFap or semen retention journey, I recommend you watch this video here where I help you do just that.